Go ahead. And so now we'll go to public comments, and I need to read this. Pursuant to board. "30 minutes per topic. All speakers who would like to comment or recording secretary prior to the point in the meeting at which the agenda item is called. All on the meeting agenda must submit a public comment card to the board president or recording secretary prior to the point in the meeting for open forum on non-agenda items. Public comment cards are available at the information table at the rear of the board meeting or from the recording secretary or online. So we do have some. Oh, okay, yes. Okay, Barbara, would you lead us in the pledge?
Right hand over your heart. Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Okay, so now we're going to go to, okay, we have the agenda approval, 9.1. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Okay. Any discussion? Hearing none, advice?
I approve.
All in favor?
Aye.
Passes unanimously. Okay. Okay, now we have the open forum on non-agenda items, and we have several comment cards. I believe we have Mark McGovern. Hello.
Hello, my name is Dr. Mark McGovern, and I'm a full-time faculty member in the MSc division with 17 years of experience at the college teaching physics and astronomy courses. I spoke to you last September on the need for the district to adopt a vaccine and our tested mandate for all students and employees. Unfortunately, nothing came of it. I am back today to ask you again to consider implementing a temporary switch to remote learning and to enact a mandate of some sort to protect our community. As I'm sure you are aware, the pandemic is worse than it has ever been. LA County test and positivity rate, which is a 7-day average, the last I checked, which was a few hours ago, is 23% and is trending upwards. Hospitalizations are skyrocketing. The need for these measures have never been more relevant. There is a tidal wave coming to this campus and it will completely ravage our AVC community if we sit back and do nothing about it. As reported January 7th by the Tribune, Cal Poly SLO, which does have a mandate in place, reported 680 cases of COVID even before their quarter began. The situation there is chaotic and has forced most of their classes to be switched to remote learning. This occurred after their administration assured the community that things were going to be fine. It turns out they were wrong. We don't have a mandate. How bad do you think it's going to get here? The time to act is long past, but it doesn't mean we should sit back and watch our students get sick and have their education disrupted or worse. They can pass it to others, including their families. They become permanently harmed by COVID or die. We need to take action now. Let me relate to you a story from last semester. I had a student that came up to me after the first day of class and said she was concerned that while in the library, she sat next to a group of students that were coughing and talked about the possibility of having COVID. I told her to email the contact tracer. A week later, she contacted me that she had tested positive. I worked with her remotely to stay on pace with the rest of the class. She progressively got worse. In my last contact with her, she stated that she could no longer do work anymore as she could no longer even sit up in bed because she was so sick. After that, she disappeared from my roster and I never heard from her again. In another case, a student of mine contracted COVID, which spread to her family. She later informed me that she needed to take a week off because her father had died. She later dropped the course. I certainly hope her exposure wasn't campus related, but we can never know. This is a reality that our community faces, so we must do all we can to mitigate it. These are just two cases, but I have more, and many of my colleagues have stories like this as well. Every indication shows that this semester is going to be worse. What is more important than the health and safety of our community? The vaccine is free, safe, effective, and the vast majority of other colleges require mandates. Our students cannot attend a UC or a CSU without a vaccine. Health is largely about minimizing risk. We need to take the necessary precautions to minimize the risk to our community, and that includes implementing a vaccine or testing mandate, just like the overwhelming number of educational institutions around us have done. By the way, many institutions in Southern California have switched to temporary remote learning due to the risk. Furthermore, AVC has a bad track record with COVID protocols and testing. In my opinion, we underreport COVID cases. We only report if a student was confirmed to be on campus after they have tested positive, not how many of our students have actually gotten COVID. My time's up. I have 2 paragraphs left. Is that okay or no? Okay,
Continue
I'll be quick. That never seems to be more relevant. How many students actually got COVID? We need to know these numbers to know the impact that COVID is having on campus. Proper testing and reporting is how Cal Poly SLO knew that action had to be taken. I have much more to say, but I only have these 3 minutes. I encourage you to reach out to me if you have any more questions, and I encourage my colleagues to speak up as well. Please do what's in the best interest of our community. Thank you for your attention and your time.
Okay, thank you for your comments. Next up is Pamela Ford.
Which one is it? Does it matter? Okay. I'm Pamela Ford, president of the Classified Union. And I hate to say it, but here we go again. Another opportunity to bypass hiring procedures and processes to bring on a reorg and just place people in wherever you want. So I feel that this is disrespectful of the campus policies and procedures and participatory governance. At this point, there are so many more questions that need to be asked and answered. Are you saying that, based on what was written in this first paragraph, that the VPs that the staff and student services basically went behind the VPs' backs to get this reorganization started? And now you have, once again, it looks like salaries are going to be increased for administrators through the reorganization. Awareness would tell you that there are many qualified people on the campus that are not being afforded the opportunity to apply for these positions because people are just being placed in them. The way that it's written on page 3, that the administrators, this is to address the needs left by the departures of the vice presidents of academic affairs and student services. This implies that there was unfinished business. And I'm kind of confused because I sit on budget committee. We have representatives that sit on strategic planning. And I sit on CCC, College Coordinating Council. And I have yet to recall that we ever talked about combining academic affairs and student services. Yet that's sort of the premise for why this is taking place, this unfinished business that the VPs left behind. None of the new positions are being advertised. Individuals are being placed in them. There are numerous promotions unadvertised. And I just want to know, when is the board going to be accountable and start requiring this administration to follow its own policies and procedures? I'll have more for you because I'm going to email this to you because this is very distressing. Thank you.
Pam, did you want to do this next one? Yes, please.
Eleanor Roosevelt said that do what you feel in your heart to be right, for you'll be criticized anyway. For the record, speaking up places a target on my back, but that's not new. I've been called a minor character in life and a blowhard by a past vice president. I've been retaliated against with threats to changes in working conditions, and at times, even due to my role as, all this is due to my role as union president, speaking truth to power on issues that either affect my constituent group or our campus as a whole. The news of the vice presidents being placed on leave isn't new, is it? It's a pattern that has prevailed on this campus since 2014. It's a pattern that I don't know, is it driven by the board or the president? Let me ask you, were you even made aware of this before the decision was made? Though I'm not sure of the process when an administrator is new, but Dr. Vines was here for 8.5 years. And I just don't understand it because he's made so many positive changes for student services and has personally been responsible for increasing diversity on our campus, just in student services alone, which more reflects the student population we serve. And he just provided you as a board a presentation in November of the accomplishments of student services. So what gives? I admit, Dr. Vines and I didn't always see eye to eye when sitting across the table from one another. He supported the president's positions on things just as I support our constituent group. My concern is elimination of his position is, he's the senior vice president. There have been no issues of moral turpitude, fiscal issues, and I doubt he's burned down any buildings as of late on campus. So if there was no cause, why the fierce sense of urgency to eliminate his position? Unless it's for a purpose, to deny applying for the position of president or being made executive vice president since he is the longest standing VP. I hope the board is more enlightened than to deny any person of color such a prestigious position. Filling the position, though, when the time comes, will reveal the truth. The contracts are not up for 6 months. So why not allow the campus to benefit of having the contract fulfilled by allowing the students to be served and having a vice president in place, not an interim.
Pam, could you wrap it up really quickly, please?
Yes. This decision impacts my group. It impacts due process because in the process of due process, the vice president is a part of that. In the absence of the vice president, who's it going to be? And I'm concerned about that. Is this how the board wants to run the campus, having upper leadership operate from a place of fear, doing what is best for his or her own department, instead of doing what's best for his or her own department? Or is the goal of the board to have the campus run by consultants or administrators? Stability is what we need. We ask that you as a board lead, stop the power plays of eliminating positions to employ fear and bring our campus back to stability, and allow Dr. Vines to complete his term and allow our students to benefit from his services. I'll email you a copy.
Thank you, Pam. Cindy Hendricks.
Cindy Hendricks, Math Science Division. Good evening, members of the board and President Knudsen. I'm here to express my grave concerns regarding the current leadership void at AVC. It is extremely concerning that AVC is without a VP of Academic Affairs or Student Services. Both positions had important job responsibilities, and I cannot begin to imagine how, in this extremely challenging situation, the college will be able to function effectively without these two valuable members of the leadership team. Spring opening day provided absolutely no comment or guidance regarding the ongoing rise in COVID cases. While many other colleges in Southern California have decided to begin the semester with remote instruction or to delay the start of the semester, it seems to be business as usual at AVC. This despite the fact that there's been an Omicron surge and hospital beds are in short supply or non-existent. Aaron Vines has been a constant and calming presence on this campus since I arrived in 2014. He always was a friendly face and someone I felt comfortable talking to if I had questions. His concern for students was evident, and he was a role model and inspiration, not only for our male African-American students, but for all students. In her short time at AVC, I found Isabel Saber to be competent, fair-minded, and diligent in her job duties. She recognized that everyone didn't have to agree, and I certainly did not always agree with her, but we could work together to find common solutions. I have no doubt that if she was still in her position, there would have been a plan in place to deal with the current surge, and it would have been communicated to all stakeholders. Many have commented that they respect her active participation in meetings that she attended and her desire to collaborate to solve problems. Personally, I appreciated the fact that she had a math background and she understood the challenges we are facing in math education. AVC has repeatedly said it values diversity. However, this is hard to believe given the situation in which both an African American and a woman in upper leadership were both removed from duties without due cause. This feels a lot like a parent that says, do as I say, not as I do. It's also worth noting that Ms. Saber is the third female to be removed from the VP of Academic Affairs position. I find it extremely ironic that the first presentation on Friday was called The End of Bias. Again, it seems more clear that this is lip service giving to the idea of valuing diversity rather than actually seeking to end bias. In the value statement on AVC's information page, I see the following two statements. We expect honesty, trust, candor, and professionalism from one another, and we create and foster relationships between AVC and its diverse constituents. Nice words, but actions speak louder than words, and recent actions tell a much different story. Thank you.
Dr. Aurora Bird.
Is it okay if I present from over here? Or do you want me up there?
Normally it would be here, but either way.
Good evening, everybody. By now, you know who I am, Aurora Bird, president of the Antelope Valley College Federation of Teachers and geology and earth science instructor here at the college. As we all know, VPs Vines and Saber were recently placed on administrative leave. As far as I know, neither was accused of any wrongdoing and neither received any poor performance evaluations. Today, we've been informed that there is another administrative reorganization planned in which these positions are to be eliminated. It appears that President Knudsen planned all along to remove these individuals from their positions, but he was in such a hurry to do so that he can't wait for their current contracts to end. The Vice President of Academic Affairs position has lacked a permanent hire since Bonnie Suderman was removed years ago. The time to remove this position would have been while it was truly vacant. To me, this represents poor leadership and poor planning. Both positions had real job responsibilities, and these have only increased due to the Omicron surge. Without them, and without appointments of interim VPs, their job duties appear to have devolved on their administrative staff, the president's office, or are just going undone. This will wreak havoc on the working conditions of the faculty and staff who rely on VP support. Who will read all the faculty evaluation packets? Who will keep a forest level view of faculty hiring and class scheduling? Who will support the deans and respond to student complaints? I noticed that the Technological Continuity Working Group has been disbanded effective immediately. Will President Knudsen continue to host the monthly academic affairs town hall meetings? I'm sure I'm only just, scraping the surface of what the VPs used to do. Frankly, paid administrative leave when there's been no accusation of wrongdoing represents a tremendous misuse of public funds. Between the salary and benefits for the two VPs for roughly 6 months, this represents roughly $250,000 being paid out when these VPs could have been kept on doing their jobs, supporting students, staff, and faculty until their contracts ended. I won't name specifics, but the casual waste of $250,000 is shocking to me, as a former member of the Federation's negotiations team. The number of pitch battles we've had in negotiation sessions, over $300 here and one LHE there. Somehow there's $250,000 available to pay administrators to do nothing. Given that both VPs are people of color and or minorities, their placement on administrative leave, as if they had done something wrong, is tantamount to smearing their reputations and appears to represent not just implicit, but perhaps overt bias. I'll just remind you that right now on this campus, when people are placed on administrative leave, it's usually because there's been some accusation of wrongdoing that needs to be investigated. So who's next? Will President Knudsen start eliminating academic programs? This is strange behavior for someone who is ostensibly leaving in June. Why is the status quo not being held so that the new president can reorganize as necessary? I urge the board to dig deeper and find out why individuals who have worked tirelessly on behalf of the college are being kicked out in this way. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Toni Garcia.
Good evening, board members and AVC community. My name is Toni Garcia. I'm a faculty member here at AVC. I teach English. More than a comment, I have a few questions that echo some of the prior speakers' powerful questions and comments. We all know that 2 vice presidents have been put on paid administrative leave, but no explanation was given as to why this was taken. So I'm wondering if and when we will receive an explanation for these momentous actions and what was the intent behind them. I know there's a lot of talk of good intentions this year, so will we be privy to those intentions? And what about the impacts of lacking 2 vital leadership positions at the college? Dr. Vines's leadership, which has lasted since I arrived in 2014, was invaluable here at ABC. How will those roles be filled and what impact will their absence have on students, academic affairs, and many other matters, as other speakers have alluded to? What is the process for their replacements? Is it equitable? How can we ensure that? How will the impact of their absence be mitigated? I hope that the discussion of these questions will not be limited to closed sessions. And once again, I want to echo the prior speakers' worthwhile questions and comments on this matter. Thank you.
Thank you. Tamara Pimentel.
Hello, I'm Tamara Pimentel. I'm a disability services specialist in the Office for Students with Disabilities, and I was the outgoing Honors Transfer Alliance coordinator, co-coordinator. I had opportunities to work with both VP Saber while she was here and Vice President Vines, and I'm here to, I'm really just kind of flabbergasted that they were both just put on administrative leave. I mean, I've worked with Dr. Vines. I've been here since 2009. He's been my VP for 8.5 years. He is a fierce advocate for our students. He is a wonderful leader. He does an amazing job in student services. He stands up for his faculty and his staff. He works to mend bridges. So when we have issues with administration, often he is bringing the issues from administration and looking for common ground with the faculty and the staff. I don't know what the reason is for his removal or why he was removed, but I would honestly ask that you guys look into it and reinstate him. We need his leadership right now more than ever. Also, this is a time where we are creating a committee searching for a new superintendent. You are looking at a huge loss of institutional knowledge, 8.5 years as a student services vice president that is now not going to be on that committee. That seems concerning to me. Vice President Saber, in my time working with her, I always found her to be open, available, solution-focused. I really just feel very concerned that these 2 people were just swept aside with no word. And Vice President Vines is my vice president. So, I mean, I have worked with him many times. I don't know why, but my boss and my dean had like the same vacation schedule forever. And so anytime anything blew up in OSD, it was always me going to Dr. Vines. And he was wonderful. And he has always been such a supportive and wonderful leader. So I would ask that you look to reinstate him, at least to the end of his contract. We are paying him anyway. Let him do his job. I mean, he does a great job. Let him do it. And if at the end of the contract it doesn't work out, then that's what happens. But at least allow him to finish his job. Thank you.
Thank you. Kathy Osborne.
Good evening. On opening day, Friday, AVC paid for author Jessica Nordell to give a presentation on equity, diversity, and inclusion. Knowing that the speaker fee for Ms. Nordell was steep, one would assume that this board and the administration of Antelope Valley College believe that DEI is an important issue here at the college. However, your actions clearly prove otherwise. Ms. Nordell discussed a disproportionate number of suspensions of students of color, and that students of color are treated very differently than white students. Now let's take a look at what we've done with our employees. In the past approximately 9 years, the Antelope Valley College Board of Trustees and Administration has seen fit to fire a Black dean, a Hispanic dean, a Black vice president, and 3 female VPAAs, the last being Isabel Saber, an immigrant who sought political asylum in this country and came to this country not speaking English. Ms. Nordell spoke of students being more successful in academics if they see themselves reflected in their college professors, staff, and administration. Isabel was a shining example to immigrant students, particularly those who have to learn to speak English. In her presentation, Ms. Nordell used an example of a professor of mathematics and described the discipline of mathematics as being, quote, macho and aggressive. We all know that Isabel holds a master's degree in mathematics. Do you think that Ms. Saber had to assimilate to that culture and assume the behaviors of her male peers in order to be successful? If Isabel Saber had been a man, her behaviors would have been lauded. As a VPAA, a male would have been praised for being strong, direct, not taking any guff, being aggressive, and getting the job done. But Isabel is male, and those behaviors were criticized, villainized, and eventually led to her being fired for no cause. While I did not work with Dr. Vines, I knew his personality. He was a lovely person, and I have heard many of my colleagues speak highly of him tonight. Isabel was only here for a year, yet she forged strong relationships with faculty and was making amazing strides towards improving curriculum here at Antelope Valley College. She took over a position that had been vacant for years. She had an overwhelming amount of work, but she rolled up her sleeves and she dove in. I have never seen an Antelope Valley College employee that worked as hard as Isabel Saber. One of the most telling things about this disastrous firing was the response of faculty who did not like her. Every single person that I have spoken to that did not like Isabel said, while I disagreed with her, she didn't deserve to be fired because she was doing her job. I'm sure that this inexcusable decision will be cloaked with politics and another reorg, but let's be very clear. You fired a highly competent female immigrant for no cause. And I will repeat, in the past approximately 9 years, you have fired a Black dean, a Hispanic dean, and 3 female VPAAs. We desperately need a VPAA to lead us. Why don't we just go ahead and hire a white male so perhaps they will have a long career here?
Okay, moving along to item 11.1, presentation by MGI Advocacy Incorporated.
I do have a supplemental piece for the board members. Sure. I have some information. Thank you, trustees, president, Antelope Valley community, Mark McDonald. It's good to be down here and see all of you. What I'm passing out is hot off the press. The governor introduced his budget today. So I'm going to go over my PowerPoint that I submitted prior to the introduction of that budget. And then I'll get to that supplemental piece at the end. So am I in charge here? Okay. If you can see that slide 1, I want to go over briefly how we work. We have a conference call every Monday that the president's designated representative participates in. And on that call, we go over newly introduced legislation, budget issues, regulations, and then it's her job to bring those to the experts on the ground and get feedback to us so we can use it in our advocacy in describing exactly how those policies will impact this college. We work through the president as through the course of the year. He and I talk generally as bills are introduced, as budget items are reintroduced to develop policies at the guidance of you and this board. As I said, there's various policy developments throughout the year. There's thousands of bills, thousands of amendments, generally hundreds of budget items. And then there's also regulations at the Board of Governors, which we are monitoring. We then communicate with the members of the legislature, their staff, budget committee members, budget staff on how those policies impact this district. So real quick, give you a legislative timeline. All the statutes that were passed last year took effect January 1st. The legislature returned on January 3rd. The budget was introduced today, January 10th. Bills that were introduced last year need to get out of their house of origin by the end of this month. And then new bills for this year have to be introduced by February 18th. So on February 17th, we'll see a whole bunch of new bills introduced. It's the legislature kind of works like college students. Some highlights from 2021. We've got an increased COLA of 5%, which was an additional 2 percentage points over the statutory COLA, which was a big win. We got all of the deferrals paid back, another big win. Significant amount of money put into a funding category that'll help students with textbooks, with zero cost degrees, and with OER that faculty develop that then costs students nothing, and they can use those materials to teach students. There was $30 million for mental health programs and another $42 million for the Strong Workforce Program. Other major budget items were $6 billion for broadband, which we know is much needed. And I'll say $2 billion for affordable student housing. And I'm going to go into this one in a little more detail because I know it's important to this district and what you have going on. There was $2 billion put in over 3 years. Half of that goes to community college. So $1 billion goes to community colleges over a 3-year period. It allows 3 Ps for community college districts. Now that was a fight that we had to get. There were a couple members that did not want to allow public-private partnerships in this, but that was a big win. And then it allowed $25 million for feasibility studies. Now, if you look at the application process, it was far oversubscribed. There were 21 construction projects for $1.25 billion. And that's the entire allocation for community colleges in 1 year. And this is supposed to be over 3 years. They haven't put any more additional funding in this year in the proposed budget in January. So it's going to be very competitive. What was $25 million for planning grants saw 71 applications for $313 million. So again, very, very competitive. The administration is going to put forth the projects that they select March 1st. So we're working to get Antelope Valley as one of those projects at least. Big priority legislation from last year was AB 927, the baccalaureate degree bill. This made your baccalaureate degree program permanent. So we don't need to go back to the legislature every 3 years and get a sunset extension. I'll go over this one in a little bit of detail, but it allows up to 15 new applications every application period and 2 application periods per year. So there can be 30 new community college baccalaureate degrees per year. So it really opens up an opportunity for community colleges to get into the workforce training space. There is provisions continue to be that there's no duplication of CSU programs. But the first application period is going to be happening this month. So it's going to be a real expedited process. Other major bills of interest, there were 2 bills related to broadband that extend broadband grants for local governments that they can partner with community colleges to build out broadband into their regions. AB 928 is a transfer reform. I think you should know that it requires the ADT, the Associate Degree for Transfer, to be the de facto degree that students are enrolled in if they declare a major that has an ADT. And you'll see there is funding this year in the budget to fund that. The next one is Common Course numbering. This is another bill. It will require community colleges to have a Common Course numbering system over the course of a few years. There's more money in the budget this year for that as well. And then let's look at issues for 2022. There will be Cal Grant reform reintroduced, and this is Assemblymember Jose Medina's final year in the legislature. This is his priority bill. What he's introducing really helps community college students more than any other segment of education. It gets more money into the hands of students for those ancillary costs like food, housing, books, tools. There'll be 2 bond bills moving through. One, AB 75, is just K-12 and community colleges. The other one includes UC and CSU. We'll be advocating for AB 75. That provides more funding for community colleges than SB 22 does. And is actually what we found is it's more likely to pass if UC and CSU are not included in the bond. And then I want to point out that there was a bill last year, AB 1040, that would have required ethnic studies at a community college. It did not go through, but the Board of Governors passed regulations requiring ethnic studies at community colleges. There's also the requirement that students at CSU have to take an ethnic studies course. CSU has made that a lower division requirement. So students coming to community colleges are going to have to take a ethnic studies course in the lower division, likely before they transfer. So just a heads up there. So what I want to do actually is go to the supplemental piece that I passed out. I had some projections that the LAO handed out. They predicted last month that there would be a $20 billion surplus in Prop 98. The governor is a little lower. The Department of Finance always goes a little bit lower than the LAO. And the governor, when he announced his, he announced 16 billion in Prop 98. That amounts to about 1.6 or 1.7 billion in additional revenues for community colleges. Some of the major items, I'm not going to go down the entire list because you have it in front of you, but I think you should be aware of the student-centered funding formula. The governor is proposing a permanent hold harmless on the student-centered funding formula. So something for major discussions this year. And I know your president is on the league advisory board. And the other thing is a 5.33 COLA, cost of living adjustment over 5%, 0.5% growth. There's also targeted money for retention and enrollment because there have been so much enrollment declines in community colleges throughout the state, 150 million there. And then 200 million in ongoing money proposed for part-time faculty healthcare. Those are the high level items for the budget. A couple things I want to point out that we'll probably see this year as well. There'll be a continued focus on student housing. Dual enrollment is going to continue to be an issue. I already talked about student financial aid. AB 705, the president and I talked a little bit about this today already, is going to be another issue this year that we're seeing. The other thing is on the COVID-19 vaccination front, there's kind of two schools of thought that are going around right now. One is there's a discussion about a vaccine mandate. There's other conversations about protections for employers that implement mandatory vaccines. So that's being debated right now. And then the other thing is we're going to see, I think, some funding and discussion around basic needs. So student food, transportation, housing, not just the construction of housing, but the operational side of it, what students need to pay to live in that housing. So again, really appreciate you having me down. It's great to be in front of you in person. I appreciate that. I think it's gives more than on the Zoom. But happy to take any questions or comments that you might have at this time.
Yeah, I have a question for you. You know, under Governor Brown, he made it his point to have the legislature save money and create big reserves. You see Governor Newsom doing that, trying to have a big reserve, because, you know, right now things are a little shaky. We may not have these $20 billion surpluses like we do. So is there talk about reserve funds up there?
Yeah, so the governor has put a significant amount of money into the reserve. What he hasn't done, and the president and I talked about that, is he hasn't balanced the structural deficit as of yet. He has that balanced in the 24-25 out year projection by then. I will say one of the things that's positive on the Prop 98 side of the equation is he makes a $9 billion deposit into the Proposition 98. It's actually 9.7 billion deposit into the Proposition 98 rainy day fund. And I think he said 87% of the allocations are one time in nature. There's not a lot of ongoing money, which makes it easier not to have to cut back in the future. But I'll say the major difference between this governor and Governor Brown is that Governor Brown tended to invest a lot of money in one or two areas. This governor kind of has multiple little pet projects that he invests smaller amounts of money in.
Thank you very much.
Sure.
Any other questions? Hearing none. Thank you very much.
Thank you for having me.
Okay. Moving along, report of closed session action. The board took action on a motion made by Michael Adams, seconded by Barbara Gaines. With a 4-1 vote, the board approved the non-renewal of employment contract for employee number 20-21/E-006. That's pursuant to Government Code Section 54957. The 4-1 vote, Michael Rivas cast a no. Okay. Okay, moving along to the consent agenda. Do we have a motion? Have a second? Okay. Okay, so advice?
I approve.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, is that a 5-0? Okay. Okay, action items. 14.1, approval of resolution number 20-22/8, declaring the futility of public bidding for expert services for our ERP system. Do we have a motion?
So moved. Second.
Okay, any discussion? Hearing none advice?
I approve.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And it passes unanimously. Okay, item 14.2, approval of resolution number 21-22/9, transfer of assets into the district's other post-employment benefits. That's OPEB trust. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, any discussion? Hearing none advice?
I approve.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Moving along to item right behind the paperclip. Yeah. You got 14.3? Okay, I got it. Okay, 14.3, approval of initial proposal from Antelope Valley Community College District, AVCCD, to the Antelope Valley College Federation of Teachers, AVCFT, for the 22-25 collective bargaining agreements negotiations. Is there a motion?
So moved. Second.
Okay, any discussion? Hearing none advice?
I approve.
All in favor?
Aye.
None opposed, passes unanimously. Item 14.4, approval of initial proposal from the Antelope Valley Community College District, AVCCD, to the Antelope Valley College Federation of Classified Employees, AVC, FCE, for the 2022-2025 collective bargaining agreement negotiations. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, advice?
I approve.
All in favor?
Aye.
Passes unanimously. Item 14.5, approval of academic policies and procedures, committee recommendations of course listing. Is there a motion?
So moved. Second.
Okay, any discussion?
Yes. Yes, Mr. President.
Yes, Mr. Rivas.
I think this was submitted by the Academic Senate and concerns removing some courses and adding some courses. Is there anyone from the Academic Senate or President Knudsen can fill me in on this? Because some of the new courses are like, I'm perplexed that some of the new courses don't have to me, the substance that the courses that we're eliminating. Like, for example, some of the new courses like gentle chair yoga and media scoring, and those are some of the new ones. And some of the ones, if I read it right, that are being eliminated are some of the courses that could teach you how to get a job in the refrigeration system, or fundamentals of investment and finance. That's being eliminated. Critical thinking and research, wildfire courses are being eliminated. Why are we eliminating some of these positions that could get you an actual job, and we're adding these other positions or courses that, you know, they're interesting, but I don't think they're going to get you a job.
Well, Professor Ryder's not here to speak for the Academic Senate, but to the degree that I remember my faculty presidency and action on faculty is that in California, we rely primarily on the recommendation of faculty in matters of curriculum design. If we are going to override that, it must be done in writing, and there must be a substantial rationale for doing so. Many times courses are eliminated because of technological advances and they just no longer fit in the programs. Some of the others may fit in a program of kinesiology, like the yoga one that you mentioned, or some of the others. So the faculty here has done a remarkable job over the years that I've been here in working very hard to keep the curriculum contemporary as they can and to making sure that there is. If you have objection to some of those courses, I'm sure that we could send some writing to the Senate and ask for explanation. But for the purposes of this evening, unless you have a reason to put in writing to not accept this recommendation for Senate, it would be in violation of the participatory governance and the 10+1 granted to the Academic Senate in AB 1725.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions? Hearing none, advice?
I approve.
All in favor?
Aye.
Is that a 5-0? I believe so. Okay, item 14.6, approval of salary schedule for professional expert rates of pay effective January 1st, 2022. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, any discussion? Hearing none, advice?
I approve.
All in favor?
Aye.
Moving along to 14.7, approval to replace copiers using Canon USA Incorporated Cooperative Agreement. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, any discussion? Hearing none, advice?
I approve.
All in favor? Passes unanimously. Item 14.8, approval of 2-year contract with EDCO International Incorporated for math licenses for student use paid through STEM grant funds. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, any discussion? Hearing none, advice?
I approve.
All in favor?
Aye.
Item 14.9. Okay. Approval of agreement with Verizon Wireless to provide hotspots and wireless service to students. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, we do have a public comment card. Pamela Ford. Okay, Pamela passes. All righty. So no discussion, hearing none. Advice?
I approve.
All in favor?
Aye.
Item 14.10, approval of insurance program coverage extension proposal in statewide educational wrap-up program for Discovery Lab Project 17-039 with Measure AV funds. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second? Okay, any discussion? Hearing none, advice?
I approve.
All in favor?
Aye.
Item 14.11, approval of change order number 018-001 for student services. Project bid package 17-037 with Measure AV funds. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second, okay. Any discussion? Hearing none. Advice?
I approve.
All in favor?
Aye.
Item 14.12, approval of change order number 18-002 for Discovery Lab Project 17-039, bid package number 1 with Measure AV funds. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, any discussion of that? Oh, okay. Okay, cool. Okay. Hearing no discussion, advice.
I approve.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Approval of change order number 18-003 for Discovery Lab Project 17-039, bid package number 4 with Measure AV funds. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Okay, and we have a motion and a second, right? Okay, we do have a public comment card. Pamela?
No, because I printed out my agenda online and the agenda I have is numbered differently than the one on the table.
Yeah, we're a little confused because I picked mine up right when I came in.
So you don't want to comment on this particular item?
No, because it's not the same.
Okay, is it another one here?
No, the agendas are off. so
Okay,
I don't know.
all right. Any other discussion? Hearing none advice?
I approve.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, 14.14, approval of change order number 018-002 for student services project bid package 17-037 with Measure AV funds. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none? Advice?
I approve.
All in favor? Aye. 14.15, approval of project assignment amendment to Converse Consultants, Incorporated, for project laboratory or records services security discovery lab project 17-039 with Measure AV funds. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second? Second. Okay. Any discussion? Hearing none, advice?
I approve.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, 14.16, approval project assignment amendment to Kruger Benson Zymer Architects Incorporated for architectural and engineering services, Palmdale Center Technology Facility Project 18-012. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, any discussion? Hearing none advice?
I approve.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, item 14.17, approval of project assignment amendment to Gensler for architectural services, student services building project 17-037 with Measure AV funds. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Any comments, questions? Okay, hearing none advice?
I approve.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Now we have informational items. I don't think we have anything to talk about there.
No, just give consideration and we'll ask, when the ballot comes out, we'll ask for your vote and action on the ballot when we receive it next month.
Okay. Now we'll go down to reports and announcements. Academic Senate Van Ryder is not here, so we'll move down to the Allen Valley College Federation of Teachers, Dr. Aurora Bird.
Good evening, everybody. At the end of fall 2021, the Federation held an election for the office of president for the 2-year term beginning July 1st, 2022. Dr. Jason Bowen won this election and will take office when my term ends. As we all know, the COVID pandemic continues. President Knudsen considered making the week of January 10th through 14th non-instructional in light of the current surge in numbers. However, he eventually apparently decided to pursue business as usual. I am convinced that this is the wrong decision based on faulty assumptions and a misguided sense of privilege, perhaps not felt by the vast majority of the college's employees and students. He appears to misunderstand the current situation regarding the severity of the Omicron variant. In his words, it, quote, appears to be the strength of a cold, especially in our student age groups. While anecdotal, many students testing positive are asymptomatic, end quote. There are more people on campus than just students, and even the students are not a monolithic group. His statement reflects indifference to the health and safety of employees and any students who are not typical community college students. He also seems unaware of the collateral damage to students and employees who test positive. Once someone tests positive, even if asymptomatic, they're supposed to begin at least 5 days of isolation. This is because somebody can still spread the virus while asymptomatic, and it's possible that they could spread it to someone who could become very sick or even die from it. Even if most people have a mild illness, when 45,000 people across the country are testing positive every day, across the county, are testing positive every day, some will end up extremely sick and the hospitalization rate will eventually increase, as it is doing. Isolation means that students, faculty, and staff may not be able to work. For the many students who do not have paid sick leave, this means loss of income for them and their families, and many students do not have savings to make up this shortfall. Even as the student, faculty, or staff member stays home, the exposure of others in their household may mean that other members of the household must also isolate and thus miss work or school, contributing to lost income and lost education. President Knudsen's choice to force crowd scenes on campus is beyond misguided. It's dangerous. In the last 24 hours, even the city of Lancaster's official Facebook page notes that, quote, the Omicron variant is easily transmissible and currently causing a very rapid rise in infections in Lancaster. To avoid a severe impact on critical systems, it's important for us to do everything we can to stop the surge. This virus can spread quickly in crowds, so stay home as much as possible. And if you are in a crowd, please remember to wear a mask. Please continue to practice social distancing and wearing a mask around others, end quote. The instructions for this board meeting ask that we, quote, only stay at the meeting to provide our comments unless space is available. Space will be limited due to social distancing and on a first come, first served basis, end quote. Why is the health of the board members more important than the health of the faculty and students forced into crowded, non-distance classrooms? Why is AVC creating crowds and enclosed spaces when the city itself suggests people stay home as much as possible? According to LA County's COVID dashboard, yesterday's positive case count was a record. According to the LA Times, AV Hospital's ICU is at 98% capacity. Current California state DPH guidelines, can I have about another minute, please?
I'll grant you another minute.
Thank you. Suggest that people use N95 masks if possible. Does AVC have a supply of these? A non-instructional week would either allow the Omicron surge to abate or give us time to make the shift to remote instruction, as is occurring at most UCs, CSUs, and many other local community colleges. AVC claims this is about enrollment, but most community colleges in California are suffering from a decline in enrollment. If students are gone and not coming back, the college should focus on the health and safety of all who are here. By the way, President Knudsen has claimed that a vaccine mandate denies access to our students who are not vaccinated. This is a straw man argument. A vaccine mandate has really never been seriously considered by the college, but a vaccine or test mandate has been brought up many times. A mandate such as this would deny access to students and employees who display callousness toward their community by refusing to take basic precautions against transmitting a deadly disease. We deserve a safe workplace. The students deserve a safe campus. Even the college's interim general counsel stated by email that, quote, postponing the return of the entire community to campus for a week is extremely prudent, end quote. In closing, the choice to force faculty, staff, and students into crowded conditions this week is a mistake. I hope that nobody pays the ultimate price for this mistake. Thank you. And thank you for the extra time.
Okay, thank you. Moving along, confidential management supervisory. Oh, excuse me. Pam, I don't want to leave you out. Pam
Oh,
Ford.
of course you do.
No, I don't. I've called you 5 times tonight.
Oh, okay. Well, anyway, welcome to the new year. I was wondering, do we still have track tracers? And if so, is there a need for more because of the increase in the numbers that are rising rapidly due to the surge? And are the track tracers tracking students or are they just tracking staff? So we'd like, is it possible to get an update on the information that they have at the next board meeting? We have reached an anniversary, December 18th. I think it was 2018. The decision was made by PERB to that employees that were affected by the charge should be compensated. To date, 7% interest is still accruing. And I'm just wondering why the board hasn't come to a decision or encouraged our administration to make a decision. Since this is an election year, I am encouraging classified to contact friends, family, coworkers, and associates to view our board meetings so that they can make informed decisions as to how the board is reacting, how the board is addressing campus issues, and whether or not that the community wants to stay with the status quo or if they want to move in a different direction, because there's a lot that's gone on and there's a lot of 5-0 votes that I believe shouldn't be 5-0. And I think the board needs to reflect more what our community looks like. I'm also concerned because I heard your legislative consultant mention tonight that things are a little bit shaky budget-wise. And I'm just wondering why, because COVID is having an impact on community colleges and our FTE is affected. And I'm just wondering why at this point in time that we want to increase the salaries of administrators, upgrade their positions, and eliminate a perfectly viable working VP that was here keeping things running effectively in student services. Student services is the hub, right? Because without student services, you don't get students in classes, you don't get students from enrollment to graduation. That is I think extremely important for us because without those students, we don't really have anything. It's because of the students that we're here. But our administration isn't acting like that. You're acting as though it's about you, and it's not about you. It's about our students. And I'm really embarrassed to have to lump the new board members in with those that have been here long standing, because some of these decisions just keep
Pam,
going.
could you
Wrap it up?
please?
Yeah, I
Thank
can
you.
wrap it up. I'm just going to say that I'm extremely unhappy with the direction that things are going. And so I really want our community as a whole to get involved in this next election. We need a change.
Thank you for that political statement. Moving along, confidential management supervisory administrator, Michelle Hernandez.
Good evening, no report. Happy New Year. Happy start of the spring semester. Go Marauders.
Very good, Michelle. Okay, our Associated Student Organization, I think Rosia is
Yes.
going to give the report.
So ASO will have its first meeting of the year this Friday, where we plan to discuss the SSCCC General Assembly Resolution Review Webinar. And that is all.
Okay. Office of the, well, Diane Knippel is not here tonight for the foundation, so we'll move to the Office of Superintendent President, Mr. Ed Knutson.
Okay, see if I can answer a couple of questions. Yes, we're doing tracking and tracing and have been, and we are expanding the way in which we're doing that. And we will be dealing with smartphone apps as well as other things that will assist us in doing the tracking and tracing. And we are being very vigilant in that. To address the non-instructional week, I put out an email to several people in campus and asked and suggested that it would be a good idea. The responses I got provided so many exceptions to being non-instructional that it would have created so much confusion for students it was not practical. The other fact is that Soar High School is active, open, and on campus. A lot of misinformation being presented here in a lot of different ways, and I am being assigned a lot of intentions and a lot of behaviors and other things that simply are not true. And I can tell you right now, I'm completely offended by the assertions, which are not based in fact, and nobody in this room can assign an intention to me. Thank you.
Okay, board member comments. We'll start down with our student trustee. Rosia.
Thank you. Welcome back, everyone, to a new semester. I hope you all had a restful and joyful break. I would like to thank everyone who took the time out of their day to come and give a public comment at the board meeting. I appreciate that. It's always great to hear your voice and your thoughts, and it's helpful. And I hope everyone stays safe. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Adams.
I was informed today by the College Foundation that the Ford Scholarship will be presented this coming spring for $500. This is, as far as I know, still the only scholarship that's funded by the Board of Trustees for a community college. And so we will be giving out a $500 scholarship in the spring. And that's basically all of you giving funds during the course of the year. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Rivas.
I want to wish everyone a happy new year. And remember, you still need to be safe. Wear your mask and get your vaccines. Thank you.
Ms. Harvey.
I'm sorry. I hope that you can hear me. Happy New Year, everyone. And as we move towards the King holiday, I would hope that we can reflect on some of the messages that Dr. King shared about unity and brotherhood.
Ms. Gaines.
I just want to likewise wish everyone a happy new year and say that it was really exciting to, as I was arriving at the community college this afternoon, to see the parking lots filled with vehicles and all the students here present on campus. It was a beautiful sight. So thank you.
I only have one thing to say. I'd like to point this out because the diversity question comes up, and there was questions about the administration and how soon we forget that our longtime president here, our previous president, Dr. Jackie Fisher, was African-American. Not only that, our chief financial officer was African-American, and our interim president twice here was Hispanic. So I'm tired of that line and that nonsense. To be quite honest with you, it's not accurate, and it simply doesn't envision the entire situation. Thank you very much. This meeting is adjourned, and we will reconvene, or we will have no further closed session, and we will have a meeting on February 14th, 2022. Thank you very much. We are done.